Ocean Reef, out 60 miles. Gulf coastal waters to East Cape Sable. Kuskaluki, out 20 miles. So basically, we're going around the south end of the Florida Peninsula. And then it gets into the further synopsis. So this is the Weather Service saying, here's what we think the overview of the weather is going to be. So it looks like high pressure is going to remain in place, some scattered showers from time to time, and the general warning in regards to thunderstorms with gusty winds, cloud and cloud lightning. But here's another good item to know. This is one of two places I'll show you where you can find it. I'm sure other people might have another place too, is the Gulf Stream. So here's where the western wall that they're forecasting, and this comes thanks to the Navy Oceanographic Office. So the other day it was 3 miles, 2 days ago in fact, it was 3 miles east of Fowey Rock. Then you got to go 20 miles east of Port Everglades. So let's say for somebody that is going to take and go up for an overnight up at Fort Lauderdale, you know, it's not that far to run up there offshore. You know, from the club, by the time you leave, go out either Government Cut or through the Biscayne Bay Channel. You know, you're looking at maybe about a 50-mile total sail, including your motor time, to get in and out of Government Cut and Port Everglades Inlet. So, you know, this is going to be something that you keep in the back of your mind of how far do you want to go offshore? Do you want to get some extra push by going a few miles off into the Gulf Stream to let you decrease your travel time and get some better time over the ground on the GPS? The unfortunate thing here is, and I'll show it to you on a different screen later here, is we don't know what the intensity of the Gulf Stream is. On another website, I'll show you in a little bit, that will have the coverage of what the intensity is. But further down, so you've now got a breakdown of what's going on, what the Weather Service forecasts. And these are fairly large areas when you look at the forecast region. So I'm going to go down to Biscayne Bay of what the forecast is. So tonight, east winds 5 to 10, light chop. So you look further down, let's say you're planning on thinking about, okay, it's Tuesday, I'm going to sail on the weekend. What do they think it's going to do? Saturday, east-southeast around 10, light chop, chance of showers, thunderstorms in the morning, and then showers and thunderstorms likely in the afternoon. So it sounds like it's going to be halfway decent, but you take into account too, that's several days out. So something that gets out there more than 3 days gets to be a little tough to forecast what's going to really happen. So this, kind of look at it as an overview, but definitely the night before, be looking at what their new forecast is. They usually update this 3 times a day, unless, or I take that back, 4 times a day it gets updated, unless there's a significant change that's going to happen, then they update a new forecast. And the one big difference about this is, compared to flying, aviation looks at a small area. You're looking at the airport you take off from, where you're traveling to, and the airport you're landing at. And the forecast is almost every other hour is a change that could happen. It's putting through an aviation forecast for an airport. And I'm concerned with, you know, it's a 2.5-hour flight for me to go from here to New York City. So what kind of change can happen in the weather in 2.5 hours? Here we're looking at an entire day and an evening of a forecast period. And the area that's being forecast is fairly large. So you have to take that with a grain of salt of the accuracy of what the Weather Service is putting out here. Now, another nice thing is that since these guys have everything spelled out, on your VHF, when you tune into that, when you're out on the boat, and channel 1 on the VHF, hopefully some folks have listened to it before and gone over it. Channel 1 happens to be in the Miami area here. You may pick up 3 different or possibly 4 different weather channels, and they're going to have different things on it. One's going to be, it'll rotate through the area around Miami here, and it's basically going to read this forecast to you over the radio. Another channel may be covering local observations, and it'll talk about, you know, what the current weather is at Miami, what the temperature is, the dew point, the wind direction. Then it might talk about the weather currently at Pompano Airport. It might talk about Boca Airport. It might talk about Palm Beach. So when you're out sitting there at the club on the mooring on your boat, or wherever you do keep your boat, you know, check this out sometime and take a couple minutes and listen to the weather channel on the VHF to get a feel for what's going to help you when you're out. This is one thing that the Weather Service, you'll hear them announce when you're monitoring channel 16, if there's a severe thunderstorm watch for a certain area. And that's a good clue to you to say, okay, I need to tune into this and listen to what's going on. They may make an announcement over channel 16 and have a full description on another frequency like 22 alpha on that channel. Then they'll run through whatever that hazard to mariners might be. We happened to be out last weekend with some of the protests that were going on, and it was having some severe impact to the bridge openings on the Miami River. And the Coast Guard was broadcasting that. So let me talk about a couple of other sites here. I got some notes to go past. So we had Fowey Rock, and I showed you that page. And National Weather Service, I got to right off this link right here onto the other tab I was just showing you. The other thing I want to point out is, look where Fowey Rock is located. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. It's pretty much out in the open and pretty free. Let me go over here to Virginia Key. I don't know if anyone's ever seen exactly where Virginia Key is located, but this weather observation point is right there at Bear Cut, and you have to take that into account of what the wind direction is really doing. Easterlies and northeast winds, they're fairly accurate. Southerly winds or anything out of the northwest offshore, it seems to be a big variance when you compare what the wind is showing at Virginia Key over Fowey Rock. Now I'll scroll down to the history today, and you'll see, and starting at 4 p.m., the winds have been pretty constant in the direction and the speed from what Fowey Rock was. So there wasn't a whole lot of interference and difference between the two. The one thing you will notice is, depending on the wind direction and the height of this antenna, when you look at it here, and I'll zoom in with this, you can see, that's a pretty low antenna. You know, and right behind it here is Crandon Park, the mooring field over there. So you kind of get a sense that friction from the earth of how tall this antenna is, and as it says, the anemometer is 10 meters. So 35 feet off the ground. Surface friction, the wind blowing over the surface close to the ground, it gets slowed down more as opposed to air higher up off the ground. So that's why we both, Dave and I, pointed out, looking at Fowey Rock, page back here, at their different heights of the 10 meter versus the 20 meter winds to see what the difference is. So those are some things to look at it as you're here on the bay, and you can pick up some of the other buoys when you scroll out here. Unfortunately, the red ones down here further on the buoy site are down. Some of the other reefs further down towards the Keys. And again, this is really good if you do decide that you are going to do some further sailing, heading down towards the Keys. These are other locations you can see what the wind's doing at the same time, or sorry, in real time off of the NOAA site. Now let me scroll over to one other one here. And stop sharing for a second. And let me go back to another one which is really good called Windy. This is what Dave, we were looking at from Dave here before, was predict wind. Predict wind brings this information in. Now, this is a larger picture, and what's nice about this is you can get a good sense of the general atmosphere of what's happening. This I have up as the lower right, the ECMWF model, and I can quickly scroll between each one. And you can see the North American model, it doesn't cover as large of an area. And then the GFS, which is out there and free, that a lot of other companies bring in and use that information between the two. So I'm going to do one other thing here. I'm going to see if this is going to let me. My controls are in a weird place for the, there we go. Zoom in real close to Biscayne Bay. And I'm going to pick a point. We're close to Fowler Rock. So here it's saying southeast at 9. This is what they're currently showing. And I'm going to bring up, by clicking on that arrow, down arrow, now at the bottom here, I've got the full forecast for several days. I'm sorry, I've got my sidebar, seeing all you guys, hiding the information I wanted to highlight down the bottom for you. So here's the day by day, just like the predict wind that Dave showed there. Shows the wind direction, the wind strength, and they're showing it in arrows, so you kind of get a sense of the direction of the wind. But the nice thing is, this is their basic. If you click on the wind tab, it shows you all four of their inputs on where they're thinking the wind's going. So let's say tomorrow at 2 p.m. We'll scroll over to there. $5 p.m. Here's what the wind's forecast to do. So they're all kind of sort of staying together. Now here, something really looks odd. The NAM model showing north-northeast at 5 knots, where the other ones are all fairly close in agreement. We've got a 12 gust to 16, we've got a 10 gust to 18. So what's that kind of say to me when I'm out there sailing is, if I'm going to use just the NAM model, I may not trust exactly what information that's given me, because the other models are all pretty close to agreement together. So we've got a general easterly flow, and the easterly flow, as far as Thursday is concerned, looks pretty nice. And this again all comes down to somebody's comfort level and what you're comfortable in sailing in. Some folks may say, 12 knots is my upper limit. 12 knots is great, but you may also see some gusts to 16 according to this one model. And I'll let it play a little further here, go a little later in the day. 3 p.m., 7 p.m., 11 gusts to 17, a little more northeasterly. And they're still all pretty steady through the weekend. And let me see, I can change this one more time, because I wanted to show you guys a compare button down the bottom, which brings a real big model layer up of everybody. And the sidebar is hidden from me, but hopefully you guys can see this. There it is. Can you guys see this over here? this gives a breakdown of what each individual model is and who it's developed from, where it's brought in from. So this will give you a little better idea of what one really works best. You know, GFS, the top one, 22-kilometer model is what that means. That means that when they make this forecast, they're only looking at an area of 22 square kilometers to give you an accuracy of what they think the weather's going to be doing on each forecast period that they have here. Now, the European 9-kilometer, you know, this is getting down to a smaller area. More accuracy because you're forecasting a smaller area that's happening. And then the ensemble model of the Metro Blue, as you read, it's developed by a Swiss company and it excels in alpine areas. So obviously when you look at some areas of Europe and happen to peek at what the weather's doing, Metro Blue is probably going to be one of the most accurate for the areas. And then the NAM model at the very bottom, I'll scroll over a little for you guys too. There you go. And this one, as it says, isn't quite as accurate, but provides better resolution than some other models that are showing down there. So windy.com is one that started out a few years back that was showing an overview of the winds. And you can look at these at all different atmospheres, heights of the atmosphere. So I'll close this down. And over on the right here, zoom back out. Get some of the US and the North Atlantic in here. So right now, if you look at the North Atlantic, there's a pretty big area of high pressure out there, the clockwise flow. So that is what's influencing our weather conditions over the next several days. Nice easterly flow. But to look at what else is coming to us. So North America for us, Northern Hemisphere, most of the weather tracks from west to east. And the reason why is we've got all the air aloft in the jet stream, which is moving from west to east. And let me go up here to flight level, probably 34,000 feet. And here's where you can see the influence of the high altitude winds and where they're pushing the weather systems across the US. And that's what we're looking at Thursday. So let me back up to right now. So here's what we've got that's happening right now. We had the leftover of the tropical system moving up the US, and the high altitude winds are kind of driving that, and it's causing this big dip along the East Coast, which is helping to play into our weather system down here. So, I'm sorry guys, my sidebar is kind of getting in the way of me. I'm not sure how to. Okay, wait a minute, my wife's coming over to help me.
Oh, it's looking good, Clint.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to move different parts of the screen, and it's getting in the way. Well, but I'm using it now. Okay. Okay. All right. So that's it. Simple. I'm screwed. How about this? I'll leave you guys partly in the middle, and then we can do that. So, okay. So this is how we're looking at what the high altitude winds are doing on a big influence to the weather that's happening. Back to the surface, what's going to affect us as far as our regard for sailing. So we see the easterly flow as we let it run. Let's sit here and clock out, and it's going to go an hour at a time. So Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, so Thursday afternoon, easterly breeze comes in. And this is the GFS model that's running right now, as far as how I have it selected over to the side. So I can look at each different one. Some go out longer than others. And again, like I said before, once you get out, after about 3 days, it's really hard to guess what's going on. These are what the computer runs think that's going to happen. But it's easy to look at, say Saturday here at noon, that we're going to leave the club to go sail. Got some decent easterly wind on the GFS. About the same for the European model, and about the same on the North American model. But the North American model only goes out to Friday. That's the one issue that it goes back and forth. So let me go over a couple of other pages here that I look at also. Windy has an app that works really well on the phone and iPad. Pretty much the same representation, and you can scroll around it the same way to look at what the forecast is going. A lot of us work better of looking at a representation of what the arrows and wind speed is going to be, and the ability to zoom in and click on a certain location and say, all right, tell me what the winds are going to be doing off of Key Largo. And my 3 models say on that day, Friday, northeast, east, east, about the same speeds. All right, another one is wind alert. And this for Miami, it's going to give us kind of the same thing in a representation here from each individual location. And again, these are the top 2. That's what I showed you on the web page. This comes, you can get these as in the app version too. You can subscribe for more information for other locations further down here, like you see, Biscayne Bay Light, Dinner Key Light. It puts out the information, but we don't have the trends of what it's doing in the forecast on the left side, like the free information does further up here. And unfortunately, I didn't grab for you guys what the cost of the forecast if you want to buy Wind Alert. But these are just a couple of the sites, and I'll show you another one here that I really like to use is Passage Weather. And here's their main page of the overview. And this works well on a smartphone, tablet, as far as looking at the overview of where you want to zoom in on. And if you want to, I'm using it on your phone, you can go to a mobile forecast site, which makes things run a lot faster for you if you can't see these graphics on your phone. So I'm going to click on South Florida here, and you get a choice down the bottom here of you can download all these to take it offline to read later if you want to, or you can animate it and go through the same thing. But they've only got 2 choices up here. They've got the GFS model and the North American model. You can look at precipitation on top of this too, and animate, or just scroll through the next time period here. And as you look further down, they happen to go with their time period in the UTC time, Universal Time, and they're doing it every 3 hours. So that's one thing that right now, this time of year, we're UTC +4. So 12 noon is 4 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm sorry, I've got that backwards. 14 Zulu is 10 a.m. So 12 Zulu, take 4 hours off of that. And you're looking at 8 a.m. is the local time on the forecast. But this is the tab I wanted to show everyone in regards to the Gulf Stream. This is a nice visualization that gives us intensity and knots of what the Gulf Stream is doing. The NOAA forecast I showed you guys said how far offshore it would be. And we looked at Fowey Rock right here, and they showed what it was going to be at Port Everglades, and you could see what it was going to be up at West Palm. Now here, you see where it tracks and the intensity picks up down below. off the West Palm Beach area, you're looking at almost a 3 to 3.5 knot speed of the Gulf Stream.
So Clint, we have a couple of questions that are coming in. So people are asking that everything you've been showing so far has been great, but it also assumes internet. So if you're making a long passage,
right?
What do you recommend? I mean, you've got the VHF on the Weather Channel, right? But what do you do on a long, like if you were going to Bimini or something and you're not going to have internet all the way over? What's your strategy?
My strategy is, as I was saying that, after you get about 3 days, everything gets to be a little bit tough to know what the accuracy of the forecast is. So, to think, we did a trip to the Abacos, and we went across. We started out to head to Bimini, and the wind direction wasn't much fun to try to beat towards Bimini, so we made a turn and then did a close reach to Grand Bahama and went to West End. We were able to get internet there again to look at it. But a lot of this, as right here, the Gulf Stream forecast, you can do the same exact things with wind and wave here. You can download these files and keep them to your tablet or onto your phone, and then you can look at it on an hourly basis. And it's just basically this screen area that you're looking at on each individual file. That's what you download. And this is going to go out. So let's say you are thinking, what's it going to be like on Saturday? Well, here's what the Saturday forecast is before you leave. So you have this. And this you can download and use it look at it offline. But again, this is something you're downloading now, and this is 96 hours into the future. Unfortunately, I didn't go out and grab the cost information for you, but I'll show you 2 other programs that I have. One of which is Predict Wind Offshore. And hopefully you guys can see the screen. Dave, you still see that up there? Predict Wind Offshore now?
No, we're seeing the passage weather still.
Okay. And let me get out of that and come back into this. So I'm going to show a different screen to you guys. There we go.
While you're getting that screen up, I can share a little personal story of some purchased weather. There's a service out there called Commander's Weather. I don't know, Clint, if you've ever heard of them.
I have, yeah.
But they're very expensive, but at big regattas, a lot of the pro sailors will have an account with Commanders, and the actual forecasters that look at weather day in and day out produce a personal weather forecast, if you will, and they will tell you things like at 2:05 p.m., we're expecting these kinds of cloud cover and look for heavy clouds and stay away from the east side of the weather. I mean, super specific. It's actually pretty expensive. It's like $50 a day. It's just sort of an extreme version of some of the free stuff online. But those Commander Weathers, they also do weather routing for you if you're doing a long offshore passage. And you can kind of subscribe to their service, and they're actually really super valuable.
Yeah, the Commanders I've never used. I sat through a seminar a couple days, or actually, I'm now looking at the email from it, and this was back on the 24th of April during the lockdown. And there's some friends that we know that do sailing around the world, but mostly North America. Right now in the North Atlantic is where their 2 boats are. They have a Swan 47 and a Swan 38. And I sat down and watched the seminar. It was free, and they have a company called WRI is who they use, and it's called Weather Routing Incorporated. They're out of upstate New York, and their cost is pretty pretty reasonable. It was $80 to plan out an offshore passage. And what they used as an example was going from Tortola up to the Chesapeake, which is what they're doing right now with the boat. And they walk through a live weather briefing, a step-by-step. Here's what you're going to expect. What's the fastest way to get there, what you should expect over the certain days. And WRI goes and provides, you can have the choice when you subscribe with them. Do you want to get your weather via a text? Because using one of the tracker programs that's out there, be it the Spot or the YB or a couple of the other ones, allow you to text back and forth with people. They can send you a text with what the update is, or if you have a sat phone on your boat for longer passages, this is what predict wind. There you go. This area for the forecast, this is what you can use with their Iridium Go as part of a satellite-based download to get weather while you're outside of internet range.
So we have, we just have about 10 minutes, Clint, left. So
okay.
I want to, there haven't been too many questions, but I do want to leave a little bit of time for questions. What else do we want to show everybody quickly in our last 10 minutes?
Let me show you a couple of other real quick things with a couple of the apps that are around, just a couple of screenshots of it. And this is what I happen to use on my smartphone.
So Jennifer is asking about what kind of weather she can get when she's using her inReach. Do you know about that, Clint? Do you know what those inReach, is that like a spot tracker kind of thing?
inReach is like a spot tracker, and that
so that's cellular then, right? You still have to have cellular.
No, the Spot will do it via satellite.
Oh, it will. Okay.
It will do it via satellite, and I'm not sure what the limitation is on the number of characters you can receive.
But what you would do then is, if you already have an inReach, you'd probably contact them and find out what weather you could get, or who
Correct.
is compatible with them, right?
Correct. Yeah. So this is the NOAA's free. This is a screenshot of their NOAA's free app that I use for radar, and it allows you up top to scroll across, so you get a good sense when you're out on the bay and see a couple of pop-up showers. And again, looking outside of the boat and seeing where the showers are moving, you might be able to see them. All of a sudden, the shoreline over here towards Cutler Bay starts to disappear, and then it reappears again. Has the shower died off, or has it totally dissipated, or has it just moved ashore and now you're seeing the shoreline again? This is something that, as long as you've got a connection on shore with cellular, you can pick it up and it comes up pretty quick. And that's just one of the pages. The other one, Wind Alert, here's what their app looks like, a screenshot of them.
But we can't see it.
Okay, so I can't go. I wonder why I can't go from individual ones.
If you share your entire screen, you can do the whole thing.
Okay,
instead of the individual apps, then you're kind of limited within those apps.
Yeah, that's what the problem. So, okay.
So that's predict wind.
All right, let me go stop sharing there, and now I can see some of the other sides on what's around, on the questions that people have asked. Okay.
I will say one thing about weather that was really surprising to me. I don't have as much blue water experience as Clint, but I've crossed the Pacific to Hawaii, I don't know, I think 7 times. And One thing that is really amazing to me, and I'm sure Clint's seen this too on the water, is every hour we would write down the barometric pressure and we would graph it just as a manual part of our daily to do. We'd make a log, and every hour we would write down the barometric pressure. And I will tell you that when that barometric pressure starts going down and you're out in the middle of the ocean, within an hour it's going to start blowing, and you can tell. And it's really not so much what the barometric pressure is, it's more about how sharp it's changing. And when it goes down, man, the wind comes up. One of those graphs I did want you to show it, Clint, was on the NOAA site. There's a plot of the wind speed and the barometric pressure. I don't know if you've ever looked at that, but it can tell you if something is coming that you're not expecting. Sometimes you don't have. Jeff has been commenting in the text here that, what if you don't have internet connection and you can't get weather information? You don't have a lot to go on, but barometric pressure is. Do you know what I'm talking about, Clint? I can pull.
Here's the graph on the Fowey Rock. I'll show it to you further down.
Yeah, there it is.
Plot of wind speed, gust, and air pressure. So you can see on the 5th, here's what the air pressure in the green, it was pretty high. Looking across to the side here, 30.04 millibars, or inches of mercury, is a pretty high pressure. You can see the ups and downs with it. When it's down 2994, that's not too extreme as far as the change is concerned. Our weather pattern here has been pretty decent, but to keep track of something as simply as that, because what's usually the bearer of bad weather? It's a low pressure system. So when the barometer starts going down, you now have a low pressure system that's starting to take over and influence the weather that's around you.
Yeah, that graph has a good example of it there, Clint. If you look between on the 6th, June 6th, between 0 and 12, you can see the air pressure was low, down to 29.94, but the wind speeds were up over, around 25, on that first big dip. Yeah. So when even though 29.9 isn't really all that low, yeah, 25 knots is still a fair amount of breeze. And so, anyway, that's one answer that I would say to Jeff's question about what do you do if you don't have internet on your boat.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say with, not only doing that, but the overall looking at what's around you, what's going on with the clouds? Are we starting to see larger towering clouds around, which means we've got the instability in the atmosphere, the buildup of some thunderstorms that are inshore? Are they starting to approach the Gulf Stream? Because that's the other thing, when I touched on about the location of where the Gulf Stream is. You get the moisture in these easterly flows. Well, it's over constant temperature out here on the ocean, and the Gulf Stream is all of a sudden much warmer. Guess what happens with those clouds? That'll increase the likelihood that you get some showers that pop up because of that. And what's really noticeable, and I've seen it on an early morning takeoff from leaving Miami, and you take off out over the ocean before they turn us north towards New York, and you'll see a line of clouds out here. Everything else is nice and clear, and the weather's pretty settled and calm. Those clouds are sitting right over top of the Gulf Stream. And that's because of the difference in temperature of the surrounding water causes those clouds to form. And that's a good sign also when you're sailing of why are those clouds sitting over that one area. So, that gives you an indication that's probably where the Gulf Stream's sitting right now. What's some of the other ones seen here? I talked about the channel for radio frequency. What can you get on your iPad versus your cell phone? Do you want to rely on internet to get most of your information depending on where you're going to? Or do you want to just download some of the files before you go and save those locally on your iPad by just doing a screen capture and saving it to a photo to where you can look at it later and you don't have to worry about it reloading? I know from experience when we're over on the eastern side of the bay, the cell phone service isn't as strong as what it is on the west side. One other thing I want to touch on real quick here. Let me stop sharing this screen. I want to show one other one real quick that I don't know if people are familiar with before we close up shop for the day.
So while Clint's pulling that up, how many people are going to show up for the next one? We're going to talk about some boat prep, like what you should do before you go on your trip, and a couple of things like that. So I just want to kind of put that little tickler in there for next time. Hopefully you'll join the next one, and we'll talk more about the boat side of it.
Okay, another good website, and it's now owned by Garmin, but this is called Active Captain. And this used to be very, very, very useful on the phone because this is a crowdsourced information site. So you can put reviews on about going and what do you like for anchorages? Where do you like, have you seen a marker that's missing somewhere? Garmin bought them, brought the information in. As I'm zooming in here, you can see it's bringing up the Navionics chart. And you've got these markers that are around different locations that either indicate an anchorage, a marina. You can get some that are going to be for a hazard marker that's missing. And then you can read the reviews. So let's say we are going down here to Sands, right here near Boca Chica for the night. We've got different anchorages here that we can look at. You've got a tide station here you can look at. That's the T symbol. You've got the general depths to plan a trip for going down here, and how are you going to get there and where you're going to stay for the night. You know, these are some other items to consider. You know, if we've got several nights of nice easterly breezes, right here in Sands is going to be fantastic. You've got nice protection, but you've got enough breeze far enough off of the mangroves here to keep away from the bugs. If I was looking at it and going to be here for one night and it's southeast, and then maybe we're going to have a frontal passage the next day and it was going to be west or northwest, this would be kind of exposed to think about anchoring here for the night. So this is one site that we'll put on the link here too, and I'll roll back out a little bit and scroll back up towards the club. And there we are, right here, Coconut Grove Mooring Field and Coconut Grove Sailing Club. And this gives you a lot of contact information. And unfortunately, Garmin's app that they have for it is, you do have to register for it now to see all this information. So that's the only drawback. You can do it ahead of time before you leave and have this app on your iPad or phone, and it is available on Android to get this information for contact. So, you know, when restaurants do start opening up, you want to come back to different places and see what's available as far as, you know, stopping for a night for a restaurant for a couple hours to eat and go back out. This is a good place to look for it, or even for stopping for fuel. Now, here's the information for Dinner Key Marina. It's got the number of reviews, and scroll down, you can leave a review too on what it's like. So
That's pretty cool.
Well, that's our hour right now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen to see if there's anything else on the side here. Let's see. Navionics.
Apps that they're using.
Yeah.
Navionics is, yep, a lot of people use that. Is that Active Captain a chargeable thing, Clint?
No, it is free. You have to register for it though. And there are some other apps and chart services that bring in the information. Navionics is one, and I just recently started using that on my iPad. iNavX is one that I've used since it came out, the very beginning, and that brings the information in from Active Captain also. Let's see. It's one of the other ones here. All right. I think that's probably about everything.
Yeah, if there aren't really any other questions, we can wrap it up. I am recording this, although I got a late start. I didn't start recording it until Clint said, well, Dave is recording it. And I was like, oh, Dave better. So I had a little Homer moment there, but I clicked the button, so a lot of the content will be there. If you email me, I'll put my email in here. It's davem@manageinc.com. And what I can do is email these links. Clint has a Word document that has a bunch of the links on this. And he also has kind of an outline on the presentation, and I'm sure you'd be happy to share that. So,
yep, sure will. Yeah, that would be great to share for everybody. So thanks a lot, folks. Good to see everybody. Stay safe out there on the water.
Thanks, Clint. Thanks so much.
All right.